Next up, one lonely issue from Transformers, number 27, right? And the light is failing in here, and this light doesn't work anymore, so not sure if you can see that, but 27. A little things going on in this issue. There's not a lot of action. They've kind of reached a situation where the events in Chicago are over with. Both the Decepticons and the Autobots are licking their wounds. So it starts off with Trailbreaker and Brawn coming across Bumblebee's broken body in the Ark, and they're like, shit, another one down. Like, can we get him repaired? They also stumble across Ratchet is dead. Suddenly Jetfire comes in and they start talking. And then all of a sudden Bulkhead, who General Flag returned a couple of bodies to Prime, Bulkhead and Mirage. And so Bulkhead walks in all repaired and he's like, hey guys, whatever. And they give him the cold shoulder. So I'm not sure what's going on, what's the story is there, but they kind of turn their backs on him and walk away. And Bulkhead's like, oh, it's like that, is it? So there's something going on there. So that's going on. Meanwhile, the Decepticons are raiding a dam. The Combaticons are there. They're raiding a dam and trying to convert the humans' energy into like diluted energon, but it's not that great. Suddenly Skywarp shows up and is like, boys, I got some intel to take to Megatron. Let's go. And they're like, well, don't you want to shoot some humans first? And Skywarp's like, oh, okay. Blam, blam. So they're killing all the humans at this dam. General Flag comes and talks to Carly and Spike, Carly and Spike are talking about. Spike's like, Carly, let's go out for dinner. And she's like, what? Can we do that? He's like, yeah. Chicago's stable now. Like, the war's off for now. Like, let's just go be normal for a minute. But then General Flag approaches and he wants to talk to Carly about not believing her and some other stuff. But then Ultra Magnus shows up and he's pissed at Flag and he's like, you captured me and you tortured me. And Flag's like, ho, ho, ho. We captured you. We did not torture you. We did some tests. You know, this was before we knew the guys with the red symbols on there are good guys and with the purple are bad guys. We didn't know that. We thought you were all bad. All we had was what we could go on, that these robots were killing things. So Ultra Magnus kind of stands down on that. And what else happens? It's a whole bunch of stuff. Wheeljack approaches Prime and it's like, Prime, we've revived as many as we can. It's time to fix you. And Prime's like, well, what about Starscream and whatever? And he's like, no Decepticons. Fix yourself, Prime. So Prime finally relents to being fixed. Before that, Prime is actually out in the forest outside the Ark with Thundercracker, who has kind of had a change of heart and is more aligned with the Autobots. So they talk about the nature of Earth and the life forms there, and how the Decepticons don't value any sort of life, and it looks like Thundercracker is coming around to being a full-fledged Autobot, or so it seems, anyways. So that's good. And then General Flag, after dealing with Ultra Magnus and those guys, he goes back to his base, goes to talk to Miles Mayhem, the bad guy from the Mask series. Amazing that Mask is in this. And they get into an argument, and Miles Mayhem kind of reveals his scheming ways. And so General Flag's like, you're a bitch, and he knocks him over and he's like, arrest this guy. So Miles Mayhem has been found out and he's being arrested, but you know that's not the end of it. And then as the issue closes off, we see Optimus Prime fully repaired being like, Autobots, we got a mission. So we don't know what the mission is. That's how the Autobots side of things end. And then the last thing we see in the issue is up on Cybertron, where Elita 1 has sent Cliffjumper on a mission. So he's in the middle of this mission. He's gaining some components for something. And I think we know what it is. I think is it for the space bridge or something? So, and he's kind of sneaking around, and we see the Decepticon Thrust kind of patrolling the area. So Thundercracker sneaks by him, but then we see somebody watching from above saying, oh, run, run, little Autobot, I see you. And it is Shockwave. Last up, a few issues of G.I. Joe, and the first one is a little unexpected. It's just this weird, released by Skybound. It's a G.I. Joe issue 152. It's like old style, like Marvel 1980s kind of G.I. Joe drawings. And it basically, it says, special issue presenting the original adventure of the very first G.I. Joe. So basically the story is, we see Colonel Hawk and Ace, the pilot, getting into the cockpit of, not a Sky Striker, one of their other jets. And Ace is escorting Hawk somewhere, and to some high important base or something like that for some meeting. And as they take off and stuff, they start talking, and like Ace is like, "Have you ever been in a supersonic jet fighter?" And like Hawk's like, "Oh yeah, a long time ago. I flew an F4 Phantom from someplace to someplace." And Ace is like, "Whoa, you would have had to stop for fuel like 4 times. Like that's crazy." And he's like, "What happened?" And then Hawk's like, "Well, it was 20 something years ago, but it's still classified." So then Hawk goes into a rumination of the events that led to this. So it's like back in the 60s or whatever it was, or I can't remember, or was it 60s or 70s? I can't remember. I think it was the 60s, the Vietnam War. So he was there with a bunch of his comrades fighting, and everything went pear-shaped. And so he made some decisions to try and save his men. And people were getting picked off one by one. And finally, it was just a few of them left, and they radioed for an evac. Suddenly, this weird helicopter comes in, this black helicopter, a blacked out one, picks them up. And Hawk's like, "Take us to the nearest hospital, stat." And they're like, "No can do, Hawk. You're wanted somewhere very important." And he's like, "This man is dying. Like, go." And they're like, "Sorry." And so Hawk's pissed, but what can he do? And they figure it's CIA. And so they eventually reach their destination, and a couple of military police come out to the tarmac and they're like, Hawk, you need to go here right away and meet with this person." And Hawk's like carrying one of his comrades who died in his arms on the helicopter. He says, "Nope, I'm going to go see this man to make sure he gets a burial." Right? So Hawk isn't fucking around. And so eventually that happens, and he goes to the White House and meets with JFK. And JFK reveals to Hawk that we are starting up a new elite military unit with full autonomy, free from the government, like the secret kind of thing called G.I. Joe. So it's basically the original origins of G.I. Joe, how Hawk came to lead it, and the events that led to, his meeting with the guy that commissioned it or whatever. And so we see that play itself out. And as the issue ends off, it flips back to current time after Ace and Hawk reach their destination. And Ace like calls back to Hawk, "You ready to get out?" And he goes, yeah, just give me a minute. So he's sitting in the cockpit, kind of still ruminating on these memories that he has that probably bring up some painful feelings, right? So pretty cool issue. I was not expecting that. That was kind of off the board, so to speak. Next up, issue 15 of like the G.I. Joe kind of origin series. This is issue 3 of 5 of the Dreadnought War. So if you remember last time, Duke and Cobra Commander escaped to this building in the desert that was all off on its own, and they ran into the big hulking Road Pig is his name, with his big hammer, and he ended up beating the shit out of Cobra Commander. So Duke starts to take a run at this guy at the start of this issue, but Road Pig gets the drop on him, and he ends up hanging Duke and Cobra Commander from some hooks in the attic of his house. And I don't know if he's going to torture him or whatever, but Road Pig kind of leaves at that point and goes off and does his own thing because he can hear the Dreadnoks approaching, right? So Buzzer and Ripper are first on the scene, and they end up fighting Road Pig. Buzzer with his chainsaw arm that he has now, like Army of Darkness. And so they're going at it. And in the meantime, it switches over to Astoria Carlton Ritz. I'm not sure where this character first came from, but she's kind of like a rich socialite who somehow gets tied up in G.I. Joe business. And maybe she was a doctor or something too. I can't remember, but I think she's from the original G.I. Joe 1980s Marvel line. I think she was in that series, if I remember correctly. But she gets Colonel Hawk, and she's like, "I got a meeting you need to take." So she takes him to this facility, walks in, and it's Destro sitting there. And Hawk like pulls his gun. He's like, "Astoria, like what the fuck are you clowning at? It's Destro." And she's like, hear him out. And with Cobra Commander going missing, being chased by the Dreadnoks, remember Destro was like, Cobra's under new leadership now. So Destro like talks to Hawk like, "We want to work together with you. Like Cobra's under new leadership. Things are going to be different, blah, blah, blah. And my associate Mercer may have some information you might want on the giant machines that are killing people and whatnot." So the Transformers, right? So we're not sure if Hawk is going to take this meeting. That's kind of where that panel closes off. But I have a feeling he's going to listen anyways. So then back to the Dreadnoks. Through this fighting, Road Pig and Buzzer and Ripper end up finding out they have a lot in common, so they become buddies. And so they end up hitting it off, drinking grape soda, that sort of thing. And so eventually the rest of the Dreadnoks show up, Xandar, Zorana, all the grunts, and they go up and they get Cobra Commander and Duke, and they drag them out of the house, and they're about to do something with them, but that's kind of where the story ends off for this issue in that regard. And then on the last panel of the comic, we see, I think it's Clutch and I think CoverGirl are like, man, Duke's been gone too long. He was only supposed to go do some reconnaissance on these people. Like, where the hell is he? Like, something's wrong. We need to mobilize. And Clutch is like, and I know just the person who can help. I'm thinking the person being a Transformer named Hound, right? Can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see Hound roll in on the Dreadnoks and be like, all right, as much as I love the Dreadnoks, I love Hound even better. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Last up, issue 323 of the regular ongoing G.I. Joe series. So this one starts off with Cobra Commander hosting an audience with a bunch of his charges. Cobra, in the kind of the trifecta of Revanche controlling the casino on Cobra Island, Destro and his forces kind of being separate and off on their own, and then Cobra Commander kind of being beaten through that kind of whole triangle. He's trying to assure his charges that, this is a new beginning for Cobra. So he's got Copperhead, Firefly, Major Blood, the evil twin brothers, a whole bunch of people in the audience. And he's like, Cobra's not beat. We just suffered a setback. We still have all these assets. We still have this. We got plans to do this. So he's trying to talk up the Cobra organization so that these guys don't leave and go elsewhere, and that they're going to rebuild and be even stronger than ever and kind of come up, right? So that's how the issue kind of starts. And then it goes to the Dreadnoks. So we have Road Pig outside of some bar being a bouncer. And inside we see Zanzibar show up and be let in. And inside it's Zartan is leading a meeting between all the Dreadnoks, saying like, we need to re-examine our priorities. We can't trust Alpha 001 and Revanche. Cobra Commander's dicked us around too many times. So what are we going to do here? And then some of the Dreadnoks are like, well, maybe we re-examine some of our loyalties. Like, you haven't been able to lead us out of shit. So at that point, some of the locals have wanted to get into this bar, and they start causing a ruckus, and they break in, and they're like, you clowns, get out of here. This is our bar. And then Destro like turns into a savage looking clown. He's like, really? So then he starts beating the fucking Christ out of these bikers and stuff. And then after he's done, he turns around to his Dreadnought companions. He's like, any problems, boys, with my leadership? Right? And they're like, oh, okay, whatever. Fine, it's fine. So the Dreadnoks are up to something. Cobra Commander's up to something. And then the scene shifts to Scotland, where these little kids are playing soccer in the street when all of a sudden there's a big ruckus. And all these machines of war start rolling by, both on the ground and in the sky. And they're like, oh, there's Laird Destro. So Destro's up in one of these ships with Baroness. And they're mobilizing for something. We just don't know what. But something's going down anyways in Scotland. So there was that. Is that the way it ended? Oh, no. And then there was the last, the fourth part of the story was Alpha 001 and Revanche on Cobra Island. So it's basically, it's him touring the casino and talking to some of the subordinates about their operations there. So he's basically just bragging about the system they have set up, where these cruise ships are bringing in all of these passengers that they are then brainwashing at the casino to send them 20% of their earnings to fund the war machine that Revanche is running, to build all their mutant cyborg things, which they are sending out into the world to then achieve world domination. So we've got Cobra Commander and his forces. We've got the Dreadnoks kind of re-examining what they're going to do. We got Destro mobilizing for something. And then we got Revanche doing their dirty tricks on Cobra Island. So we got these four very powerful beings leading these four very powerful factions. And, well, we've got a four-way powder keg waiting to unite, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Peace!
Meow.